On this episode of Health Coach Talk, we are discussing something that's a little different. We're talking about starting a company. How does somebody start a company from scratch? Have an idea to create, in this case, a cracker that can check all the boxes, that is free of all of the common allergens. And then how do they go on and get it into major grocery stores like Whole Foods? We're talking with Trish Thomas. She is somebody who is local to my community, and I felt that she had a fascinating story. Let me tell you about Trish Thomas. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's a problem solver. She's a four-time founder and a lifetime mountain climber, the proverbial kind. She sold her first company 4 years out of college, built the first safe online community for kids, scaled a media company to distribution in 100 countries and 65 languages, consulted some of the biggest companies in the world on content, digital strategy, and she currently teaches entrepreneurship at Northwestern University, my alma mater. On top of all that, she's been raising two sons, four stepsons, multiple dogs, and a husband. But she actually thinks that they have been raising her. She co-founded Everybody Eat. And I think you are going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, here is Health Coach Talk. Welcome, Trish.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I co-founded the company with Nicole Wilson. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is my fourth company, but I never expected to do it again. And the only reason why I jumped back in feet first was because I met Nicole Wilson at the book fair for our kids' school. And Nicole had the background in food. She grew up at PepsiCo and Frito-Lay, and she really recognized a lack of clean, healthy food. And we put our heads together. So everything we're going to talk about, we have done together.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. And I hope everybody heard what you just said, because I think it is really those connections that we have that we're meeting people through our kids' schools, through our neighborhoods, and forming those connections. So I'd love for you to tell that story, how this really came about, and then what you decided, and how did you decide particular ingredients to go in. And I think first let's backtrack and explain what this product is so that everybody is aware of it.
Sure. And Cindy, I also teach entrepreneurship at Northwestern. So I would tell you that those connections are key to everything. And so successful entrepreneurs really start with a problem worth solving. And how do you know what that is that it has to be, the only way to do this is it has to be something that you care more about solving than anyone else in the world. And you have to be unreasonably committed to solving it. So in our case, I have multiple autoimmune diseases. And with the help of a doctor, Dr. Gita Maker-Clark in Evanston, and a health coach, I figured out that if I removed certain foods from my diet, my body changed. My inflammation went down, and I've been off medicine for about 10 years now, just from simply taking gluten, dairy, soy, corn, and egg out of my own diet. But I have 6 sons. So 2 teenage boys, 4 stepsons, and 2.5 grandsons also. And I went from somebody who really loved food and loved entertaining to it became just the opposite of joy for me, because I could no longer share the same food as the rest of my family. And so Nicole and I met at the book fair at our kids' school. She was coaching a tech company at the time, and I was just coaching entrepreneurs for fun. It was in the beginning of my journey where I started teaching entrepreneurship. And I started working with her, with this founder she was working with, and I would serve her snacks sometimes when we sat down to work, and she'd say, "You eat this stuff? This is disgusting," because it didn't taste good. So we put our heads together, and we really recognized a couple things. That one, that there was a lack of free from food, meaning free from the top allergens or certain ingredients that tasted so good that people without food issues would eat them. And that for the people with special diets like me, the number one pain point was actually sharing food with other people. And most people suffer in silence because they don't want to be difficult. So, like, if we're going to a social engagement, my options are eat before I go, don't eat, bring my own food, risk eating what's there and getting really, really sick, or God forbid, be a bother and be one of those people that says, sorry, I can't eat that in advance. So we recognize that the real white space wasn't just cleaner, healthier food. Our definition is whole food ingredients, healthy fats. Most of our products don't have any sugar, but we are launching cookies at Whole Foods soon. And we are using real sugar in our cookies because we looked at the other alternatives and everything else. And really what we decided is to use lower amounts of sugar, but use real sugar versus a chemical substitute or something funky. That was a big decision for us because we were trying to keep the whole portfolio sugar-free. But anyhow, that's where we started. Was the problem we're solving is actually eating with other people. And understanding what that problem is changes everything. So when we started and we spent 2018 developing food, we wanted to see just how much food we could develop without those ingredients that could be enjoyed by all people. So we actually have a portfolio of about 25 products. Then we spent 2019 trying to figure out how to get it made because most food companies start by using a contract manufacturer. But most of those contract manufacturers have allergens in their facility. That's why you might buy something that is essentially nut-free on the ingredient level, but you turn it over and it says made in a facility that contains nuts or milk or whatever. And right now, the latest data we have is that 80% of people read food labels. 65% of US families have some kind of special diet in the family, either a medically mandated dietary restriction or dietary preference. And with the people that have issues around food, usually 30% have issues with more than one food. So if you just want to be dairy-free and gluten-free, everybody still can't eat it, right? So we took the strictest ingredient profiles we could from the beginning and started working from there. But in 2019, we were trying to get it made. And what we found is that we couldn't. So we started with crackers and dip because crackers are the number 2 most shared food behind popcorn. And what we're trying to do is literally create food that people can share. So that was how our crackers were the first product launched. And so we made the very difficult decision that we wouldn't even sample our products until we could make them in a facility that posed no risk with cross contact with the ingredients we were leaving out. And we did this so that the people with the strictest diet, people with life-threatening food allergies, could partake as well. So we couldn't find anybody. So we spent 2019 building sort of an innovation kitchen. And we launched on March 1st, 2020. And on March 11th, 2020, right in the middle of COVID, we shut everything down, moved 900 cases in my living room and said, oh my gosh, what have we done? So we ran around. We weren't even going to start at retail. We were going to go to food service because food service, like restaurants, cafeterias, hospitals, any social travel, that's where the pain point is the hardest for people like me. Cooking at home, as you know, your community solves for that. But that changed everything. So we ran around during COVID with face masks on, walking into stores that did not want to talk to us saying, hey, hi, we have this ultra clean new cracker. So that was really something. But by that August of 2020, we started selling every single thing that we could make. And we've been doing that ever since. So our challenge was actually manufacturing capacity. So our Everybody Eat Thins, our cheeseless flavor, is the number 1 vegan cheese cracker at Whole Foods and Sprouts. Our fiery chili lime and other flavors, people will, they always say, well, I can't believe I ate the whole bag, but the whole bag is, 450 calories and 13 to 16 grams of protein. Well, that's multiple servings. They don't feel sick from it. And then we just recently launched grain-free crisp bread crackers at the Whole Foods in the Midwest. Those are my personal favorite. But so like if you're on the autoimmune protocol diet, you need a completely grain-free cracker. So those crackers actually serve the need of being a base. Like I eat them for breakfast with avocado or something like that, or you can put them on a charcuterie board, but they really become a carrier for people on the AIP diet versus our thins are, because they have rice flour, potato flour, are really for the modified AIP diet. And the crisp bread crackers are paleo too. They're grain-free and paleo. And then our cookies, we focused on like high quality ingredients, again, responsibly sourced palm oil, minimal sugar, and actually just great taste, because a lot of free-from cookies just don't taste good.
Well, I have to say, this is just such an incredible story. And I've tried these products and they are good, because often, and it really bothers me that these are called health foods. You go into a grocery store, and other than like a Whole Foods or Sprouts, and they have the health food section. And that has really bad. I mean, every food should be a health food. And I remember many, many years ago, this was way before Whole Foods. And you mentioned Evanston and Northwestern. I would go to Evanston. It was a half hour from where I lived at the time. And that they had one little health food store called the Green Earth. But things didn't taste that good back. They did not have that many products and they didn't taste that good. But now you walk into a Whole Foods and there are thousands of products. I wonder if you could comment on some of those, like greenwashing. They're in Whole Foods and people think, oh, they must be good because they're in Whole Foods. But if you read the label, they're not like your products. They really have some ingredients that maybe not so good.
Well, I would just, in talking about the ingredients or marketing, how we got around that was that we knew that people with special diets spend a year of their life reading the food label. So we just put the ingredients right on the front in the order that they are right on the back. And what's interesting is when you're sampling food, you still see people read them on the front and still flip it over on the back. But we didn't write gluten and corn free and vegan and all those things really big, because we did the research, and what we found out is for people that don't necessarily have a food allergy or a special diet, when they see too much no, they think it has no taste and they won't eat it.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
I have a very different experience with Whole Foods. I mean, you have never met a group of people that care more about the ingredients in food in your life. And I can say that not only knowing the category buyers, but there was recently their annual meeting here in Chicago, and they had like 600 store managers there. And we were one of 10 food companies that was invited. And the store managers, the people that work in the store, they really want to talk about the ingredients. So I would say that what the scrutiny that we have to go through for ingredients, both in terms of certifications and non-GMO certifications, is really intense, and it's starting to amplify at other mass retailers too. It's not just Whole Foods, but I don't think that you're the expert, but from what I've seen and experienced, they don't greenwash anything. They really, if you're not using the best quality ingredients, they will ask you to change them.
That is so great to hear. And what I was referring to would be those products, and often health coaches will go through the store, or they'll tell people, like, you have to be discerning in terms. And what I love what you do in putting those ingredients on the front, because sometimes they might take, let's just say, a cereal. And they'll use we've seen this, it started out with the fat-free movement. and everything was fat free. But you turn it around and look at how many grams of sugar, and it was just loaded with, the SnackWells. So it
Right.
started there, and now it's like the gluten free and things that, like on potato chips or so many products that, well, they're putting these labels. It's gluten free, it's paleo, but really, as you want to look and see, well, what are they actually using in this product? So and helping people to really be discerning and look for products like yours that have those, they're actually
Well,
talking about those ingredients.
and I know from other major retailers too, that we now get, one of the biggest grocers in the world, they send you a list of 3 pages of ingredients you can no longer use.
Mm.
So the message is getting out there. I mean, it's a little bit, it's easier for us, but I apologize. My mom is in the hospital, so that is her caretaker. She's in the ER. So, I think it's going to get better. It's going to get better. So just in the next like 2 weeks, Kroger, which is one of the larger grocery stores, they're having a Nourishing Change conference in Cincinnati that is all about food as medicine for all of their executives. Right. Next week, I'm going to South Dakota to meet with Hy-Vee. We're presenting at their nutrition conference. So a lot of the larger grocers are trying to figure it out. It's tough though, because when you look at, if you follow the money is still going to the brands that can make really cheap food where there's not a lot of food in the food. And so the challenge is really how to take the cost down for mid-scale. We're still tiny, right? We're tiny, but I would say smaller to mid-sized food companies don't have the purchasing power of the behemoths, right? So the first question is how to shrink the distance and the cost between the farm and our mixing bowl when you're tiny. And we were talking to somebody about ingredients a couple weeks ago, and he said, now, do you receive your grain in a rail car, and does it go in a silo? And I was like, no, it actually comes off a truck in a pallet in a 20-pound bag. And he was like, okay, so you can't compete with that.
Yes.
So I think that it's really about shortening the distance from the farm to the company, learning how to buy at scale, but it's really going to take the consumers demanding it before there's change.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody can eat a cookie that's made with all kinds of stuff that you don't understand what it is, and they keep buying those, even though there's other alternatives, the retailers and the grocers are always going to sell that cookie first because they can make more money with it. It doesn't mean that they don't want to sell the alternative, but that's where you see. But like what we're seeing with our cheeseless SKU is out of like cheese crackers, right? Or just gluten-free cheese crackers. We haven't had any money to do marketing, but we're the number one vegan and gluten-free, like vegan cheese cracker brand, right? And that wasn't marketing. That wasn't anything else. That was just people trying our product and buying it again and again.
Well, that certainly was the case with me. I bought it and these are really good. And I was having company and was assembling a charcuterie board, and I said, oh, I love these crackers. Where'd you get them? So the power of word of mouth, and you're so right, educating the consumer. Trish, where would you like to go? What's your ultimate goal with Everybody Eat? What would you like to see? You're already in Whole Foods, which is really, such a feat to be in Whole Foods.
Well, when people say, how will you know you made it? For me, it's when I walk into a Super Bowl party and there's something I can eat, right?
Oh, yes.
Not complicated. I also travel a lot. And so my dream would be able to create an Everybody Eat menu where people in hotels or other things could order off the room service menu or off the menu. And I could know that what I'm eating, I can eat. I know where it was produced. I know it doesn't have any risk of cross contact, and I know it's going to taste good. Mm-hmm. So we have a long way to go. But I think that, we're doing it a little by little, right? And so for us, the next stage is trying to go to unexpected places besides the grocery store. So food service, like entertainment venues, we might do a pilot at Wrigley Field next year. Schools, universities, travel, the airport, places where people could discover the brand, but it's also where it's really hard to eat. Historically, at the airport for me, I could get stuff jacked with sugar, sliced dried mangoes, or potato chips, if the potato chips weren't made in corn oil. So that's really where we're headed next. We're not just trying to grow for growth's sake. We're trying to take the pain points out to make it easier for everybody to eat everywhere.
That is so, so important because you are so right. That is where it is most challenging. I travel with my own food, but sometimes you don't want to, you want to have some options at airports, for example, or Wrigley Field. And we didn't mention that you are Chicago based. So we talked about your teach at Northwestern, which is in Evanston, that's north of Chicago, but this is where you manufacture, correct?
Yes. We built our own manufacturing facility, and well, we're on our third, and in April, we moved into a 20,000 square foot facility that will allow us to do 10 times what we were doing last year. And it's actually a funny story because we looked at 55 locations in the Chicago area trying to move, and we are in a former Nissan car dealership. So I am talking to you from what used to be the office where they would sell cars.
Wow.
And a food plant needs floor drains and a lot of power. So we sort of creatively chopped it up and in the back, and we made it a bakery. So we have an allergen-free food facility on a main street in Evanston, Illinois. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that is just so fantastic. And to think again, this all started because you ran into somebody, you connected at a kid's book fair. And this is how, if coaches who are listening, this is how this can happen. And you grow, and it sounds like the sky's the limit. Well, I'm so excited for you, Trish. And how can people find you? And how can people find the product?
Our website is everybodyeating.com. They can find us at Whole Foods, Sprouts, Natural Grocers in Chicago, Mariano's, and now Jewel. Yeah. So traditional grocers are going there. But I would say for your health coaches and everybody else is that the key to entrepreneurship is fearless asking. Never be afraid to ask for help, because the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no. But that isn't the worst thing that can happen, because once somebody says no, they calm down there, and then they'll start to talk to you and tell you what they will say yes to. So it all starts with the conversation and not being afraid to ask people to give you a reference, because as a health coach, you need those personal referrals, right? So are they asking like every client to give them 10 clients, right? Or to host an event where they could do a talk or other things. So it's all relationships, right? It's all relationships and getting out of our comfort zone. And I can tell you that I didn't know a thing about the food industry. I've done other things in my life, but I didn't know anything about the food industry 5 years ago. And we can all learn. We can learn.
Yes. And I didn't know anything about business when I was 65, so I'm 74 now. So that was a while back, but I had just been in private practice as a health psychologist and started a company, started a school to train health coaches. I had no idea. I didn't even know what a P&L was. I think I was so clueless because as a psychologist, those aren't the things we focus on, but learn as you go. And you are so right. Ask for help. I love that. Well, I've loved this conversation. I have loved getting to know you. And as I have said, I love the products, and it is so exciting to go into stores. And now a store like Jewel, a national grocer chain, this is our local chain, but it's part of a larger venue. And to see those products there, it's really exciting.
Thank you, Sandy. Enjoy and wait till you try the grain-free crisp bread. You're going to die.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited to try that. Well, thank you so much.